Van Electric Ghost on the air with Natalie Bailey. So you're okay? You're all set today? You're having how are you tonight?
I am awesome today. Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here to speak with you and to share what we can with the watchers and listeners. So thank you for having me.
So I gave the title of this episode. I said basically from party girl to entrepreneur, how a gym turned life around. That was a suggested title. So that's the focus that we'll have. You're a coach and a mentor, and you're a property developer. You have over 10 years of experience running businesses, including bars, gyms, and business. So we're going to talk about like how you can be successful in health, wellness, and happiness. So when we talk to you about that, we will also mention your website for people in the audio audience. There's www.nataliebailey.com or Bella.com.
Arabella, Natalie Arabella. The website is different to my name. So the website's nataliearabella.com. And my surname is Bailey. That's my family name.
Yeah, Natalie Arabella. Sorry. Yeah, I confused that. But NatalieArabella.com. So if people go to that website, what do they find there?
They find lots of pictures of me with red hair. On the website, we detail like what we do. We've got the Confident Entrepreneurs Club, which helps start and scale up businesses to connect with other entrepreneurs, increase their confidence. We do weekly trainings, monthly online sessions, looking at like goal setting, making sure that you're being accountable and getting stuff done. And then on there, you'll also see what we do in terms of our mastermind and retreats. So they are like the higher level stuff. And I love all of what I do, but you'll see what we do in terms of the mastermind. We work through people's struggles, their challenges, celebrate the wins, and help map out a plan for their lives going forwards in health, wealth, and happiness. And we also do other stuff in terms of like content creation, confidence building, different workshops and things like public speaking, setting up membership sites, etc., etc. And then we are 4 weeks away from running our third retreat, and I'm really excited about that because we get to do all sorts of fun activities, team building, confidence building, but also having that network of people. And the people that come and the way they connect with each other, it's a really special experience, taking yourself out of the day-to-day and in somewhere like really inspiring and hot. This year's is in Mallorca in the Balearic Islands in Spain. And like nice. I said, I'm very excited. It's 4 weeks away.
Well, that's nice. Okay, I was going to ask you where it was going to be. I was wondering if it was going to. So where are you right now?
I'm in Mallorca right now. And I've lived here, as I alluded to in that title, since 2011. I left for a little while and lived in Barbados for 9 months. And that's where we hosted last year's retreat, was Barbados. And the first one we did in the UK because of all of the travel restrictions and stuff. So, we didn't really have much of a choice there.
My wife's from Barbados. She was born there. But
amazing.
That's yeah. So you did mention like inner confidence, and one of the first questions I was going to ask you is like, how do you unleash your inner confidence? And I guess you teach people how to do that in your retreats is one of the goals.
Yeah. So I believe that everybody has confidence. We all have confidence in us. It's whether we choose to let it out and unleash it. So first of all, you need to recognize that you have something in you. And thinking about, your normal day-to-day activities, you use confidence in anyway. So whether it's setting up a podcast, a Facebook Live, whether it's having a shower, putting your clothes on, you have confidence in those tasks because you've done them before and you've repeated them so many times, it's like second nature to you. Like, how many times have you gotten in the car and you've driven somewhere and not realized or remembered how you got there? or what you're actually doing in terms of driving is because you're like on autopilot, right? So it's the same with tying your shoes or learning a new skill. You have to push through that barrier of, I don't know how to do this, and then going, I want to know how to do this, and then practicing as much as you can so that you can then get better at it. Because if you can have confidence in one area, you can have it in another. So tap into those resources that you have inside, even if it is from something that may sound so simple as tying your shoes. You can use that for the bigger things and the things that may seem like really scary. Like, have you ever watched a toddler try to tie their shoelaces?
Yeah, it takes a
Yeah.
while.
So it takes them a while, but do they give up?
Yeah, I remember with my daughter, she took a while, but we kept at it and she got it. It just
Yeah.
took it wasn't coming that easy, but it's just a matter of practice. And I think it's the same thing as I'm a musician, I'm a producer,
Yeah.
and I hadn't done podcasting, right? But I felt confident being a musician that I can do that because I play people, I can produce. So it's just like going from like audio to video was the kind of thing, because like musicians sometimes you don't see us when we're writing, a lot of times, and you got to change your mindset when you present. Was an audio podcaster for a long time, and then I switched to video, and it was a whole different set of things I had to do. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's like being a musician, we practice. That's part of the nature of being a musician is you prepare, you write songs, you do development, go in the studio. So there's a lot of things that you do, like muscle memory of playing a piano or playing a guitar. So yeah, I totally get it. And I think athletes have the same thing. They being athletic.
Yeah.
I think that gives you that kind of discipline to practice and to make
Exactly
sure you
that.
stick with it.
Yeah. So I was having a chat with someone on my podcast the other day, and he's a public speaking coach. And he said about musicians and the fact that you practice. And imagine going to a gig and that being the first time they ever performed that and they'd never practiced. Like, how disappointed would you be? You're giving them your first draft. And that's exactly the way when you think about public speaking. If you've got a presentation to give, practice it first. So you're giving people your best. So doing that then for yourself, to practice and to let that compound effect kick in, one, you're doing yourself a massive service and you're building your confidence by doing that. But you're also seeing accomplishments time and time again, because you're going, yes, I did that today. And then you're getting that little dopamine hit, and from that reward system, from that sense of accomplishment through practice. And then it's like, you must have this when you get to like the finished version of a song, and you just feel that it's epic and it is what
Yeah.
it is, what it needs to be. And you
Yeah.
can do that with personal development, with building your confidence.
Well, I think all the other point you mentioned is you went from party girl to entrepreneur, and how the gym turned your life around. It seems like that gym is the discipline that musicians and athletes have that do that practice,
Yeah.
right? Actually, is that how you try to take that gym mentality and use that to kind of turn things around? Maybe you can describe what you mean by that.
Yeah. So if I can have the discipline to go to the gym every day, and at the moment I'm on a cut because my retreat's in 4 weeks. So this morning I got up, I went to the gym, I did my leg day, I did my cardio, then I went and did yoga on the beach because that's a different kind of practice. And then I've done all my work all day long. Today's been very, very busy. But then this evening, because I'm on a cut, I'm doing double cardio. And I really detest cardio. And I didn't want to go. And I tell you, I did not want to go. There's other things I wanted to do. There was other prep I wanted to do. And I was like, Natalie, go. Because think about how you're going to feel when you leave, how proud of yourself you're going to be for doing it. And then you won't feel like you have to catch up. Now, I've got a better mindset around catching up on exercise. We'll delve into that later. But having the discipline to do the things even when you don't want to do them is going to be the thing that separates you from everybody else. So it's like a transferable skill. So it's in the same way of the confidence of like tying your shoelaces and public speaking, for example, like you learn and you practice discipline. And when you look after your body in the right way, and you know that saying, my body is a temple, well, you should treat it as such. You have one body to live in, one life to live. So by using exercise as a treat for your body and mind, rather than thinking of it as a chore or some hard graft that you have to do, you start to change the way you think about things and the way you feel about doing these things. So if I can go from the way I used to live, like Magaluf's a massive party place on an island. It's like, imagine spring break, but like all summer.
All day, all the time.
all day, all night, like all summer. And that's
Miami.
what that place is like.
Yeah.
It's like Vegas, but not Vegas. It's like without the gambling.
I mean, like New Orleans or Miami, certain places in the U.S. they have that kind of connotation, even parts of New York. But yeah, the idea, like with the discipline of being, like, I'm in two different disciplines. I'm a software developer, which has a lot of discipline because we have time deadlines and stuff we have to get done. And we can't, we don't just like, okay, I don't feel like doing it. Like we got clients waiting for what we're trying to build. And then same thing when you start producing with a song, working with other musicians, and you've got an album or you got a single. I mean, it's creative, but you do have targets that you need to get this done by a certain amount of time. You need to kind of get the artist in the mindset of actually trying to finish. And that's probably sometimes with artistic people, that's hard because sometimes it's like, it's not their natural inclination to just kind of be a workhorse. There's like, it's a creative thing, right? And some people's creative process is, hey, I gotta walk in the woods, or I'm gonna come back later. I don't feel like doing it right now. And then like, well, I got to get it done. So you're trying to figure out ways to get people who are not as disciplined and still get the work done is a challenge.
Yeah, that can be a challenge, and that's where deadlines are really important. So like if you've got, you've set a date for an album coming out, you've got to do the work. You have to find the creativity somewhere, whether that is, like you said, going for a walk. I get creative, like walking along the beach or in the gym or having the conversations out of like that space, or like round the boardroom table. Like that doesn't spark the creativity. So making sure you've got these times in where you go, oh, I do need to take a step back here because my brain's not functioning right. Go and do some exercise, go for a walk, phone a friend, and then come back to it with a clearer, fresher head, but knowing that you've taken some time out so that deadline is still hit. And that's why goals with deadlines are the best way to achieve anything, because otherwise you're just like meandering along through life without setting these things in for things to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, one of the cool things, I live in New Hampshire, which is like New England, and we have a lot of things that we can do, like in the outdoors. You can go hiking, go snowshoeing, go skiing, go fishing, go all these different places. Amazing. So we're in a very kind of pastoral rural area. And so if I get caught up in trying to hit the river trail, I can go snowshoeing. I can go fishing. I can do something. And usually I love that kind of idea of walking in the woods, like on Walden Pond, old poets. I'm into Victorian poetry. And they would always talk about like nature is a church. Like Thoreau, like the idea you go out in nature and that is your cathedral, right? So you can kind of totally get inspired. I've been very much inspired by nature, and I'm in a very beautiful place. So it always inspires. It always gives me a chance to kind of get out of like, oh, I'm stuck on something. Let me go out for a walk and come back. And I immediately, get out of my narrow lane and realize like, yeah, I needed that because I was like too narrowly focused and I didn't see the big picture.
Like ultimately, human beings are still animals, and we're supposed to be outside. We're supposed to connect with nature. We're not supposed to be sat in boxes and little cubicles and not opening the curtains and stepping outside. Like, our feet are meant to touch the dirt and touch the earth and put out, go in the sea, and it's part of us. We come from the ground, we go back to the ground. So it makes sense that we spend time outside. Like, people, I know so many people, they are so miserable because they never go outside.
Yeah, because I think the modern life tries to like penalize you for taking breaks. And one thing good about the pandemic was, I've been able to work from home, and I've been able to like, get my walks in, get my nature walks in, be able to do things, because it became like, okay, just get it done. Right. So I don't have to sequentially sit at my desk for 4 hours straight or 6 hours straight. They measure me on whether or not I get the task done. But like if I took an hour to go walk in the cubicle world, you can't do that. It was like, where is he? Where'd he go? Where'd Peg go? Where'd
Yeah,
Finn go? You're gonna get pinged for
because
that.
you're on the clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I
it
think,
has inspired a new way of working and of being, because you don't have to be sat in the same space for 8 hours a day in order to get the thing done.
yeah, I
So
think it actually goes away. It detracts from you getting it done. I mean, the idea that sitting there in that cubicle is going to get it done is actually like antithetical to getting it done. I find that like with musicians, the same thing. Sitting in that box in the studio, if it's not working, it's not going to work if you stay there 6 hours. It's like you got to get out
yeah,
and come back. Because
absolutely right. Because that's not where it's not where you see the colors or like hear the noise, is it? It can be stifling.
yeah, it's just a different mindset to get away from sequential, and it kind of opened it up that I think creativity kind of is point in time. It kind of jumps around.
Oh,
A lot of
definitely.
times that something that's kind of off the cuff, and then you go back and you look at the holistic thing. I kind of would into holistic thinking, and a lot of people get into narrow boxes. And if you think in a holistic term, the timeline doesn't have to be sequential. You can bounce around, and I think that's where the good things happen is when you realize that you don't have to be sequential, that you can bounce around, that you can doesn't mean that you can't be disciplined. It means that you maybe look at a wider frame.
A bigger view of it, like the bigger picture view, bigger picture thinking, and seeing there's another way. That's what we as entrepreneurs do. We don't fit the mold. We do break out of that narrow-mindedness and break away from what we're indoctrinated to believe. And there is always another way. And I like to see that people are getting back to nature and seeing like different solutions to the problems that are pushed in front of us, and using that creativity to help heal the world and the people in it.
Well, I think it's the idea like a fear of judgment will stop a lot of people from having like, that kind of, creative thinking. If you think about it, it's hard to measure on a bell curve. Because if you have this bell curve and everybody's supposed to be in the middle, right? But like Einstein's on one side of it, the Bill Gates is on another side of it. Like, you creative people are on different sides of that. It's hard to measure because like Einstein, if you try to measure him, math, he was getting D's and E's, but he was
Yeah.
brilliant. So the typical course man wasn't measuring him right. Totally missed that he was a genius. And I think a lot of times the corporate world forgets that like the innovation sometimes comes on the other both on the different sides of that curve. And if you are going through your yearly review, and you're actually probably kicking, going to make a lot of people leave, and they're going to be entrepreneurs because you didn't measure them. They actually get like tired of you not understanding them, and they go create something because they couldn't create it in your environment because you're not actually conducive to creativity.
It's like the maths and sciences are pushed forward, but not music and art and those, the creative spheres that actually we need in the world. Because without that side of thinking, like what is, this is a bit deep, but what is humanity without that side of thinking? We aren't all, tick box, do this exam and see how intelligent you are, when actually that really doesn't mean anything in the real world. Like, what about communication? What about connecting with other people? What about being able to help other people? What does it matter if you can't do certain maths equations? If you can hold a conversation and you can be a good leader and you can face that fear of judgment and put yourself out there and go, oh, hold on a minute, no, I don't fit this box. I'm going to do what I know makes me happy, because people are going to judge you whatever you do. They're going to judge you whether you drive like a shitty banger or whether you drive a Lamborghini. Like, you're going to get either way. They're going to judge you whether you're smart on paper or whether you're not. So you might as well do the things that make you happy and let people judge away, and understand that they're going to judge you. So when you accept that that's going to happen, that allows you and gives you permission to go and do the things that you want to do deep down inside that you're hiding away from.
I think a lot of people get anxiety about those measurements, and then they feel like they're scared to say anything because they're scared of failing. But I point out a couple of times, there's like, as a musician, like 99% of your compositions actually fail. Like, they don't really reach anybody. But I don't look at it as failure, because every time you worked on one, it builds you to the next one. And so if you actually look at everyone, and I knew a bunch of people when I was 17 that stopped doing music because they looked at it as failure. Because I didn't get to be Jimmy Page, and I didn't get to be in the top 10. I looked at it as like, as I grow, I get better. I get creatively better. And so each moment that you might call a failure is actually moving toward the success of understanding different genres. And you're going to fail until you learn, like free jazz. You want to learn it. You first try to do it. You're not going to do it right. You're going to make mistakes. Just because you make the mistakes doesn't mean you stop doing it. But a lot of people, if they, at the beginning of that, until they feel comfortable, they might just give it up. And it's going to be uncomfortable because you don't know it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you're always learning as well. All of those failures add up to you coming from a place of experience on the next one. If you know, we don't all know what works, like, from the off. Like, you don't know until you try. So expect failure and get comfortable with that, because it's going to happen. Just learn from it and use it, put it together and go, okay, well, that didn't work. So how can I improve?
Yeah, that's like the idea, like podcasting. I've been podcasting since 2016, and if I had stopped after my first 12 episodes, I wouldn't be here. In the first 12 episodes, I go back and I look at them like, whoa, I really didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. So a lot of people, that's like the number I've heard is like after 12, most people stop. And I go back like, my first 12, it would probably fail. Right. But, at over 840, I feel more confident. But it's like, sometimes you just don't get past that 12th one. You don't get to the 13th one because you let the world kind of drive you down.
And stop you,
like, I'm not kicking, I'm not hitting, nobody's watching, so I'm just going to give up. And I really always have been rail against that, with everything I do, in terms of even the IT work I do. You get a new programmer and he's like, oh, am I really suited for this? I'm not getting it. Like, it's going to take a bit. You got to go through the fire, until you go through that, and you have to learn new things. And I've had to learn from mainframe COBOL to like modern blockchain. We have to reinvent what we do all the time because the tech changes. So you can be comfortable with COBOL, but you're not comfortable with Python. You're not comfortable with, R. You're not comfortable with whatever, but that's the way the world is. I'm never going to be fully comfortable because there's always new tech coming.
It's always evolving.
Yeah.
Everything's always evolving.
You're not going to know it all.
You can't know it all. You just can't. You have to go forward and learn. And a lot of that is like hitting the glass ceiling and thinking that, say, those 12 episodes are your limit. You can't go any further when you can. I saw a video earlier. I now obviously can't remember his name for the life of me. It's the guy that does your family fortunes.
Oh yeah, I can't remember.
You know what I mean? He's brilliant. He's funny, but he's very like motivating. And he was saying about fleas, and they have a 36-inch jump, so they can jump 36 inches. But if you put it in a jar, it tries to jump, but then it hits the lid, and then so it learns that that's going to hurt, and so it stops jumping so high. So then the children fleas, they learn from their parents, well, I can only jump so high. But you have to then take yourself out of that situation or put yourself into a new situation in a new environment to then see just how high you can jump. So just because, and this is why community to me is so important as well. Not to say that parents are shit, parents are amazing, but they've equally been brought up in, you know, where they're at. And what I love about, I mean, I work with my mum and I'm very close with my dad. I speak to both of them every day. So I'm very fortunate from that regard. I've not had that jar top. And this is why I like to help people to take the lid off and to jump as high as they can. Because when you find the right people and you start talking to people that are doing better than you or doing things that you want to do, you have deeper and better conversations. You learn that actually there is no ceiling, there is no lid on the top of the jar, and you can go and do anything. You know, if you've got the likes of Jeff Bezos, and I now obviously can't remember the name of the other guy. I'm not very good with names sometimes. That can go and create something from nothing.
Amazon or Steve Jobs,
Yeah. You know, so if they can create something from nothing, then why can't you, as a person watching or listening to this, go and do something that you want to do? You don't have to then become the richest man in the world, but you could become the richest man in your world. And by that, I also mean from a physical, spiritual, and like mental side as well, because wealth isn't just about money. It's about your lifestyle and, you know, the people you have in it and the things that you do. It's not just a monetary value, but I don't think that putting that lid on the jar is going to help anybody. So take it off and go jump.
Well, I think it's like the Great Resignation. A lot of people felt like, okay, now I'm going to go do what I want, right? I'm going to go do what makes me happy. Now, whether or not that makes them money isn't necessarily the measure, because if you're an artist or you're somebody that's like into you know, like an Etsy type of thing, and you're making your own product, you know, you might be comfortable, and it's not making you a millionaire, but you're comfortable because it satisfies what you want, right? But you're able to do what you wanted to do. You're creating something you wanted, right? You're doing something you want to do instead of being that cubicle doing whatever the Fortune 500 company wanted you to do. And then you weren't satisfied. And I think what happens is a lot, you know, I'm an artist. And so I spend, you know, half of my life doing my art and the other life, you know, doing the job that allows me to do my art. And, you know, if I didn't have my art, I wouldn't be happy because and art just, you know, it finds audiences, I find collaborations, I find opportunities. And it wasn't because I was trying to make money. It was just because I let the art kind of do whatever it's going to do. I'm not really into trying to forcibly make money with my art. I let it go where it's going to go. And then if it brings me something, that's fine. But, you know, that's, I think a lot of times you talk to artists, they do it because they love it. You know,
following your passion.
You follow the passion. You're a painter, you're an actor, you're you know, a graphic artist, you're a musician, you're a producer. You do it because you love it. And then sometimes you connect with enough other souls that they get it. And it's really cool when everybody gets it, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be a fine thing?
Yeah, it'd be cool if that happened all the time. It doesn't always happen.
It doesn't. It doesn't always need to, as long as it fulfills something in you and you feel like you are following your purpose, some of the things that we do as, you know, as creators, we do from a place of, I'm doing it for the love of it. Not everything's going to be about the monetary value, but obviously getting it out to people is part of that process. And, you know, having the confidence to do it. Like you say, sometimes you need a different income stream to then pursue the passion, and then those things might turn around, it might change. But if you don't go and do that and try, how are you ever going to know?
Yeah, you have to you have to decide. Because I always tell people when I was a producer, it's like a lot of times I tell artists that you don't really know what the audience is going to like, right? So you talk to an artist and they've got like 20 songs sitting in their vault, and then they tell you this is the one they think is the one, and then you go look at the vault and you say, these 5 other ones I like better.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, I don't want to put those out. Those are private." I said, that's like the first mistake, because like you don't really know as an artist. A lot of artists, famous artists like Prince, but they would make choices and it wasn't the right choice. Like the other people around them actually found stuff, and the artists themselves didn't. Oh, I don't like that. But what you personally like as an artist sometimes isn't what is actually going to
Isn't what
connect.
the audience likes and what the audience wants. Yeah. I've done that when I've put logos in it, even logos and images out. I'm like, right, that's my favorite, and then everyone picks something else, and you're like, oh my god, no, why?
Yeah,
but that's a fair point. Give the audience what they want and what they need. Because
with social media today, you have the opportunity to try things.
Yeah.
Like if you're not fearful, you can go and put something on a reel. You can go put it on a short. You can go put it on a social media platform, and then see what goes on. And then a lot of times we can test things, and then we can see if what the response is. But if you're sitting on like 100 ideas, and you pick one of them, and then it fails, it's like, oh, that's it. And it's like, well, you had 100 ideas, you didn't even show anybody. Maybe you ought to you throw them at the wall and you have no idea. So to throw it at the wall is not a bad strategy in the world where there's so many places to put things.
Yeah,
it's actually a good idea.
You're right. There's so many places, and always be testing, put it out, see what, get a feel for it. Because otherwise you're not going to know. And if you come from a place of serving the people that are your audience, it's going to become even better.
Yeah, definitely. I think you get confidence when you actually decide that, oh, I have the authority, or I have the right, or I actually am not fearful. You can put it out there. But so many people will put their own glass ceiling on themselves. Like it's like nobody's actually restricting them other than themselves. They're sitting on 100 pieces of art and they won't show anybody. Right. And it's like, well, that's really kind of hurting yourself, because there's like, you have no idea what anybody's going to think in that gallery unless you put it in the gallery.
Exactly. Yeah, put it out there and sit there and just make new stuff and don't put it out there. That's interesting, actually. One of my mentors, he was an artist, or still is. I think once you're an artist, you're always an artist. But he wasn't good at selling his art. He just didn't put it out there. He didn't again, fear of judgment. Like, what if people don't like it? So that stopped him from making a living through it. But he continued to make art, but then did nothing with it. So, I mean, like I say, I know people that have done the same thing. So being able to shift that mindset and go, well, I've created this. If somebody doesn't like it, so what?
Yeah, I mean,
as we said earlier, people are going to judge you anyway. So get it out there, because they might find that somebody does like it. It's not we live in this fear of judgment world, fear of failure. But, what if it goes well? What if it goes right?
I think you have to not take it personally. And it's kind of hard. Like if you're an artist, and even if you're a creator, right? You're a creator, you're somebody that comes up with a life coach and you come up with an idea and it doesn't work. Well, yeah, that can feel hurtful if something you do doesn't work. And everybody understands that. But you have to kind of get over it. You have to get over it, because you can't reach the next level without making some mistakes. Like you have to break some eggs to make the cake. You're going to make a mistake. right? And so the first couple of versions of that cake, maybe nobody likes it. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm going to stop. It's like, well, no, like, how do you get to be better if you don't try? You know, you have to put
Exactly.
it out. Somebody's got to taste it. Somebody's got to see it. Somebody's got to hear it. You know, you're never going to get anywhere just being in your head. And you think about like a poet like William Blake was not known in his time. The guy, you know, Fearful Thy Tiger, Fearful Thy Cemetery, like really famous, or one of the most famous Victorian poets, was not famous in his time. He etched his poems in acid on metal plates, and people found him later. He was never famous in his time, but he actually had the kind of forethought that I'm going to make this poetry permanent by etching it with art into these plates. And so he did feel that, but he didn't really push it other than make it permanent by putting it onto the plates. But the idea is that he did part way, he did the plates, but he didn't push them. So it really got, you know, you might not be famous. You still can actually be picked up in another time, but you probably want to be known in your time.
So whilst you're alive, yeah.
Yeah, you probably got to have a little bit of manifest your confidence to a level of, you know, get it outside of there. So
get it out there and get some feedback. Be open to feedback. So the next iteration is a better one, and then you keep improving through feedback. I used to hate getting feedback because I was worried of the negative side of it. But actually, if you don't get the constructive stuff, you don't know how to improve.
Yeah. I mean, you never get better in anything, you know, like you don't get better as a programmer until master programmer goes and says, hey, you need to do it like this. You know, you're playing, you know, drums, and you got a master drummer. Of course, you're not going to be as good as him, right? But are you give it up because you're not good as him? You learn what you can do. Like a lot of artists, like they learn the range of their voice, right? So yeah, I don't have a 5-octave voice. I'm not going to sound like, you know, Frank Sinatra, or I'm not going to sound like, you know, this other person, right? It's like, and so the problem they make is they try to match somebody, and then if they can't match them, they say, well, I'm done because I can't match that. You
I'm
have
not
to
as
start
good
to
as that
get,
person.
yeah, you have to, the idea of like the punk aesthetic. What I liked about it is he made things more egalitarian. Like you think about the Clash, you think about the Sex Pistols, you think about Nirvana. When you have that kind of punk aesthetic, it's like, hey, I can just go out there and be an artist, and I don't have the range of this other artist, but I have heart and I have soul and I have an idea that still needs to be heard. And then you can say, well, it's a different type of art, and it's still valid to put it out.
Yeah, it's just different.
Yeah, you can't compare it to another genre because it's not going to be in that genre, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't put it out, you know.
Exactly.
So I think that I think it's like what you're kind of leaning toward with what you're talking about, the confidence. You got to have discipline, you know, the kind of athleticism of doing physical activity or working out gives you that discipline. Musicians have discipline, the athletes have discipline. So you kind of give yourself that discipline, you know, mental discipline, not even physical discipline, because that might be the harder thing to get yourself into. Like you could get into a physical routine, but can you get to the mental discipline, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that sets you apart from other people. And like I said, like there are times when I just really don't want to do something, but I know that by doing it, I'm going to feel better, and it's going to help me to achieve my goals faster. So rather than taking the easy route and going, oh, I'm just going to stay in my comfort zone here, when you push yourself, it challenges you mentally, and it allows your brain to function in a better way, because you're not giving yourself that excuse or that cop out, or, you know, pretending that you need a rest when actually you're just being lazy. There is a massive difference between genuine rest and actually you're just being lazy. And knowing the difference and understanding your brain, your body, how they're connected, it's all one. And going, okay, I don't physically want to do that, I don't mentally want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then you'll get a sense of accomplishment, you'll give yourself a pat on the back or a gold star, and you'll feel better for it, and then that equips you to do bigger and better things in other areas. Like you can grow your creativity. Your brain is almost like, I know it's not technically a muscle, but it's like a muscle. When you exercise it, it grows, it learns, it increases capacity. So if you do that to your body, why would you not do that to your brain and constantly be learning and pushing to have better mental clarity and better focus and being able to do more so that you can see more of life? Like we said earlier, we've got one life, one body, and the more that you can do and experience, like when you get to the end, you're going to go, oh yeah, that was great, that was a great ride, rather than getting there and thinking, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. And even though it might sound counterintuitive is the wrong word, but being disciplined physically and mentally and equipping yourself with the right skills for life might sound like it's not that kind of fun party freedom, like that kind of life that I used to live. That wasn't really what life's about. Yeah, I'm glad I did it, I had a good time, but it gave me a lot more experience and knowledge to go, well, actually there's more, and like the universe is deeper than that, and the conversations you can have are deeper than that, and you can create so much more when you've got that discipline in you.
Well, I think having that life of actually communicating and being with people could be the positive side of that party life, is they be able to have connections and be able to communicate and be sociable is a skill, and
Mm-hmm.
as a musician, like if you're totally antisocial, how are you going to play in a band, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to work as a producer if you can't communicate what you're feeling and what you're not able to express it? So being able to be sociable in a way where you have constructive criticism, you can share ideas, you can share moments and feelings. A lot about music is like being with a bunch of people and not having to say anything and actually just play a note and another musician knows what to do.
What to do? Yeah.
Because and that's like magical because it's like nonverbal communication. And I think a lot of times like you can equate that to a public speaker is like, are you just kind of remembering what you practice, or are you reading the audience and
Mm-hmm.
riffing off of what you see as a response? Because good musicians they're looking all around them. They're looking at the bass player, looking at the drummer, looking at the audience, and they're adjusting based on where they are and what's happening. But they could
Yeah.
just say, I'm just going to stay on what I did, or you could actually evolve and become a better musician by actually embracing the moment and embracing what's actually going on
Yeah.
and adjusting.
Yeah, because ultimately you're there for the audience anyway.
Yeah.
They don't. So why would you not want to give them the best experience you could possibly give them? And that is a really good skill, knowing how to communicate even when they're not speaking back to you, like body language, the feeling in the room. You can feel energy, and feeding back into that is a powerful thing. And like as a public speaker as well, and knowing when the room's going flat and when to pick things up or when to slow down and all of that, it's a similar thing as to creating music. You're just using your voice in a different way.
Yeah, you're kind of picking up the vibe. Like we always feel like as a musician, like we're feeling like there's a muse, there's like a universal notes that you can be in tune with. And when you see the audience clapping or really moving and they're grooving, then they got it. Then you
Yeah.
actually hit that universal key, right? You know that when everybody is like vibing and they got the lighters up and they're like, oh, wow, I got it. I triggered it,
Yeah.
and and that is like an awesome feeling as a musician when you can actually non-verbal, like, or just audio, you know, through what you're doing actually connects to such a level that everybody's kind of grooving. And then you got it, and then the band's grooving, you're grooving, the audience is
Yeah.
grooving, and you feel it. And I think that kind of connection you can have in other things. It's not just limited to musicians. It's like dancers can get it when they're doing dance, rehearsals or plays, or
Hmm.
actors. There's multiple types of places, and your public speakers, teachers can read the students is like connecting with your students. Are they not? Are they all
Yeah.
like looking at their phones and they're not paying attention to you?
You don't want to be here anymore.
Like,
But
oh, I'm not
it's
really
reading
going to
the
be
room,
able
isn't
to.
it?
Yeah, yeah, reading the room. I think that's a big thing. I mean, in terms of knowing that you're going to connect, and then you're going to be successful when you connect, like with a human kind of self, like being able to connect with other humans, right? That means that you are not just inside the individual, that you're looking outside yourself, and there's some level of empathy that you have to have. Because if you're just totally self-focused, like you'd be like that old progressive rocker, turn your back to the audience and just play the song and not even look at what the audience is doing. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just gonna play it. And they're like, okay.
That's not giving the audience the experience that they want, is it?
No,
You
not
know?
really. Yeah. And you can end up doing that, kind of turn your back in other ways. You
Yeah.
could be the teacher's not 99% of the kids aren't getting it. Right. That doesn't mean that they're dumb. That means that you're not communicating. You're
Yeah.
not actually getting across, and a different teacher might get across. So maybe
Yeah.
you need to rethink how you're doing it, because if they can't get it, maybe it's you.
Yeah. It's your communication skills and knowing that people learn in different ways. They take things in different ways, and maybe it is that you're not explaining something in the right way. So, go back to basics and, like we say, read the room, see what's going on, try a different way, try it again. And it takes confidence to do any of those skills. Teaching people, entertaining people, all of it. It does take a level of confidence to go, I'm gonna put myself in front of you and be vulnerable, and then I'm gonna open up and like read the room and try to give you what you need.
So, what are 3 habits that you can use to build into your daily routine to build confidence? Is one of the questions you had. I was wondering, like what that would, what your
What would that
response
look
to that
like?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously there's lots of different things, but like I put in some, in order to build your confidence, you need to practice. So being scheduled with your routine is the first thing to implement, and making sure that putting in that time to go in. And I do bang on about exercise a lot because it's important. You've got one body, look after it. And the more you look after your body, the more you look after your mind, and your brain will function better. So to have some daily exercise in your routine is going to benefit you on so many levels. And until you start doing this and you wait for the compound effect to kick in, don't give up after 2 or 3 weeks because you're not feeling or seeing any change. Like, be consistent with that. And that's the other thing, is consistency equals success. So find some kind of exercise that you enjoy, and make sure you do it daily. It doesn't have to be something crazy. It could be a 30-minute walk. It could be deciding to go for, well, maybe you do want to hike every day. I couldn't hike every day, but I do hike once a week when I'm in Mallorca. But something that gets the body moving, the body flowing, so that your brain starts to function better. The second thing you want to do is to make sure that you are checking in and being accountable with other people for your goals and setting yourself challenges. And again, I've said this earlier, but community is very important. So knowing that you don't have to do things alone. So whether that is getting an accountability buddy and just checking in with them once a day, just saying, look, I've done this today, this was good, or I had this challenge, is going to make a difference. So making sure that's scheduled in. I'm very into scheduling and putting stuff in your diary so you get those little notifications to go and do something like this. So exercise, community, and checking in every day. And then one of the things I really like is something I used to think was absolute crock of rubbish, and is like telling yourself, like looking at yourself in the mirror when you get up in the morning, telling yourself a daily affirmation, but by looking in the mirror and saying it out loud. Mine has a swear word in it. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here.
Yeah. We have an explicit podcast, so you can do it.
Cool. It's not even a bad one. It's I am fucking amazing. I have a t-shirt that says it, and by saying that every single day, because that's a belief I wanted to instill into me when I realized that I wasn't feeling that about myself. So by doing that and saying that, and like you look yourself in the whites of the eyes and you do that when you get out of bed in the morning, and like if you're having those moments where you feel a bit shit, just go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
It starts to shift your perspective on how you feel and look at yourself, because you're saying it out loud and you're not just saying it in your head. You hear it in a different way. So, you know, a lot of people cringe at the sound of their own voice, and they won't watch videos back, and they can't even listen to their recording or their voicemail. And you'll know this as an artist, noise travels differently. So when you speak and you hear your own voice, your voice is traveling away from you. But when you watch it back on a video or you listen back, it's because it's traveling to you. It sounds different. So look yourself in the eyes in the mirror and say it out loud, but also record it and play it back to yourself. So you get used to hearing your voice in a different way. And that's going to help you to build your confidence, especially when it comes to speaking. If you want to be a public speaker or any kind of communication, feedback is key. So that's an extra little tip. That was 4.
That's interesting because, like, as a musician, I'm a keyboardist, and for most of my career, I never sang. But then I realized I was never really gonna get to the next level if I didn't actually sing my own songs. If I kept on giving them to other people, they kind of singer-songwriters are considered to be more complete, like, artists, at least in the way I looked at it. So, you know, 2016, I started to actually go through that process of actually listening to my voice, playing with different mics, playing with different all kinds of tools, and getting comfortable with how my voice sounded and being able to actually use it with my own songs.
Nice.
And it was a big process. I mean, I went through tons of, all kinds of mics, all kinds of stuff, just to hear my voice coming back to me and seeing what I could do with it. Knowing that I had a certain range and I wasn't going to try to get outside of my range, but I got to get comfortable with the limits of my range.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to figure out how that worked. And it was a whole process that I really, it helped me get into podcasting. Because once I actually got comfortable doing the songs, it was kind of simultaneously. I would release my first vocal records in 2016 and started podcasting in 2016. So it kind of happened at the same time.
Yeah.
It just expanded because I was willing to challenge my insecurity of not liking my voice.
Yeah.
And then actually deciding, like, okay, I'm gonna just go and I'm
gonna break through this.
Yeah.
break through it in order to succeed and do better. That's amazing. Well done. Because so many people wouldn't, and they don't do that. And that is one of the biggest things that I do say to people: watch your videos back, critique yourself, get used to hearing the sound of your own voice, so that it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is in the beginning, so that it becomes more comfortable, because magic doesn't come from being in your comfort zone, does it?
No, it's kind of like when you learn how to use your voice, you can learn how to project it, how to get the deep part of it out, how to actually, present it. And it's very useful. Like I had a vocal coach on one time as a podcaster, and it was really super informative to figure out, how to get the voice to come out of your diaphragm, how to not be, straining and not wreck your vocal cords, but just the different techniques, because your voice is an instrument. People say, oh, he's a vocalist. It's still a musician because your voice is an instrument. And so, whether you're a public speaker or a singer, like learning how to actually control your voice and use it in a way that a vocalist would is actually a good idea. When vocal coaches are really, something that people should look into, because you can learn how to project your voice a lot better than maybe you do naturally without
Yeah.
assistance.
It's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, I mean, it is your way to talk to the world, the way can interact and get people and you have to be confident. Like if you're not confident, how are you going to do it? Like you
Exactly.
can't sing a song if you're kind of going back and hitting the tape, rerun 1,000 times, and they still don't like it. You have to get to a point where you have to accept it. You have to accept what you are, right? You got
Yeah.
to look in that mirror and say, "I love you." I love me. That and you can't get there. You talk to life coaches all the time. It's kind of like the first step is you got to like love yourself.
Self-love, self-care, that is the thing. Accept yourself, give yourself permission to do more, and give yourself permission to give yourself feedback, and then you'll start to grow in confidence.
So one of the things in closing, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is like, was there a time when you were lacking in confidence and then you overcame it? So
Quite
maybe
a
talk
few.
about how you had that moment, or multiple moments, maybe the
Yeah,
key
I mean,
moment.
there have been multiple occasions, and my my lack of confidence initially was I had acne when I was a child, when I was from about 10 years old to the age of 21. And that massively impacted the way I felt about myself, the way I looked at myself. I didn't just have a few spots on my face, it was horrendous for me, all over chest, back. And
Mm.
then that had issues with like the kind of clothes I felt I could wear. And that really held me back in a lot of areas, because I didn't feel like I could fully be me with this teenage stuff that was going on, even when I was 21. And then trying to mask it and hide it. And I think that's where a lot of like the partying kind of thing came from, to being that life and soul of the party, to hide the fact that actually I was struggling.
Mm.
So, and I've seen this with a lot of people. Actually, those kinds of people are hiding stuff that worries them and makes them feel less confident, because you do think people are going to judge you, although they never see it to be as bad as you feel about it
Yeah.
most of the time. So it wasn't actually until after that cleared up and I went through different personal development and different coaching and stuff, that I really understood what I was doing to myself, and then learning to deal with, like, I've got scars and stuff and like that, but that's part of my history and a part of who I am. So learning to deal with that, if I could have had that time again, um talking to myself now from then as if me now, it would be that it doesn't really matter what other people say, it's how you feel. So work on what you can to improve things, and implement good skin hygiene, which I did anyway, but it didn't matter, my hormones were all over the place. um, and just
Yeah.
accepting that maybe this is a part of my life, and it was. And there's been other times as well, like when it comes to doing public talking, public speaking. My very first Facebook Live was shocking. And I just spoke really, really quickly just to get it done as really fast as possible. And my hand was shaking and it was all like this, and then done. And it was
Yeah.
terrible. But I did it. And then I did it again, and I did it again, and did it again until I improved. So having that practice and, taking public speaker training has helped. But yeah, the biggest thing for me was the acne, because it all then it disappeared, and then it came back with a vengeance for about 6 months a few years later, and I was like, "Does this go away?" So it's better equipped to deal with it the second time back when it came back.
Yeah, it's interesting how things happen in life. Like what happened to me in my big confidence building moment was I actually had cancer. I had like at age 27, I had a sarcoma, and then I beat it, and then I decided like I was a life like affirming thing that happened. I survived it, but
Yeah,
then I really started looking critically at my life, and I said, I've been scared of a lot of things. But after beating cancer, then I wasn't scared. So then I was like, I went and lived in Japan. I got married. I wasn't scared to actually ask my wife out. And I've been kind of a person that had been fearful. I had to put ceilings on myself. I was, like I've been in bands, but I wasn't singing. I was writing the songs, but I didn't feel confident enough to sing them. I give them to somebody else. Then I started to like really become me, and it really was something I had to go through, this kind of crucible moment where I decided like, hey, I'm giving myself permission that I can do it. And why did I have to give myself permission? But I guess I had to, but that's the way it worked.
Yeah, because you hadn't allowed that up until that point, and that's an amazing story of building your resilience and confidence and going, hold on, like life could have been very, very different. So go and live life to the fullest, and see what you're capable of, and ask the girl out, because you never know, they might say yes.
Yeah,
No,
that's the
you're
way I
right.
started looking at it. Like things that you don't do are just missed opportunities, and you might as well like, yeah, somebody can say no, somebody can say go away, whatever. But like if you never do it, then you never know. So it's like the point is like this kind of having so much anxiety over whether or not you should do something. I don't want to do it, and you have to deal with it. But you get to the point where you're strong enough to deal with the outcome of what that you do. Right? You gotta be responsible, for the things you do. And if you put it out there and let people know where you're coming from.
Yeah, and taking responsibility for your life.
Well, thank you again for being on the program. We actually hit an hour. It always went by so quick. I never really realized until I look up and I say, wow, we had actually hit it again. But yeah, I want people to go again to nataliearbella.com. And again, you maybe can tell the audience what they can find there.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and it has just flown by. So I hope that everybody watching and listening has felt the same and taken some great stuff away. So on the website, you'll see what we do in terms of community. We've got the Confident Entrepreneurs Club, where we have a WhatsApp support group. We do trainings. We do monthly online Zoom sessions and masterminding. We also host masterminds and retreats as well. And there's also the Confidence Mastery podcast as well. So if you're looking for an increase in your confidence, then check that out too.
So I always love talking to another podcaster and talk to different people from all over the world. It's very fun. I've had a great conversation tonight. I want people to make sure that they go to that website. And also we will be on multiple platforms. We'll be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Video Podcast, iHeartRadio later tonight. So thank you again for being on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I very, very much enjoyed this, and I'll make sure that I share it with everybody too. So thank you.